Across the Fence commemorating the St. Albans raid. We're coming up on the 150th anniversary of the northernmost land action of the Civil War. And St. Albans is celebrating in a big way. We'll learn what happened, why and how St. Albans plans to mark this historical event. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. A Confederate conspiracy, bank robberies, and a desperate run for the border are all part of what makes St. Albans raid full of intrigue and excitement. The raid took place on October 19, 1864. It's being commemorated in St. Albans next week with reenactments, races, and events for the whole family. In a moment, we'll give you all the details about the event. But first, let's join Civil War historian Howard Coffin to learn more about the raid.
It may seem hard to believe, but the northernmost land action of the American Civil War happened here in St. Albans, Vermont on the 19th of October, 1864. Some 20 Confederates came down over the international border and robbed St. Albans' 3 banks of more than $200,000, and they got away with it. The 150th anniversary of the raid will be reenacted, honored, explained from September 18th to 21st here in St. Albans, centerpiece, the St. Albans Museum. It's going to be quite a time, and one place you want to go to in St. Albans if you're coming for the reenactment is the St. Albans Museum, and I'm standing right there in the raid room of the museum. Incidentally, this building has a raid history because it was the village school during the raid. The school children were on the top floor in an assembly, and they were brought downstairs for their safety, but saw the action on the main street out the window. It was almost like a battle here in St. Albans as the raiders entered the banks, made off with the money, and then the locals started shooting at them, and they started shooting back. It really was war. The Confederates tried to burn St. Albans to the ground. They had grenades called Greek fire, but they fizzled. It was a rainy day, and they weren't very good after all. The Confederate raiders started north for Canada, pursued by a 50-man posse led by Captain George Conger, a soldier home on leave. But the Confederates got across the border in time. Some were recaptured, but they were taken to jail and tried in Montreal, and they were set free. But the story of the St. Albans raid is one of the intriguing stories of the Civil War, and it will be retold and relived this fall.
The St. Albans Raid commemoration kicks off on Thursday, September 18th and runs through the weekend. Events include elaborate reenactments, walking tours of key locations, music, lectures, and more. All the information is available at stalbansraid.com. That's stalbansraid.com. You can also call the St. Albans Historical Museum at 802-527-7933. Well, herbal medicine has been around as long as human beings. In the search for cures to the healthcare crisis, more and more people are turning to what their grandmothers knew. Natural medicines work especially when it comes to prevention. Across the Fence's Keith Silva visited the largest herbal farm in the Northeast to learn more about ancient cures and using plants as prevention.
On a warm summer morning, a stand of echinacea bristles with bees. Echinacea is important in the garden because it promotes pollinators. The insects flitting from flower to flower keep things growing, healthy, and alive. The echinacea, grown at Zackwood's Herb Farm in Hyde Park, is prized for another benefit: medicine.
An average echinacea root probably weighs dried about maybe between 2 and 4 ounces. We expect out of this crop of echinacea to get maybe 100, maybe 150 pounds. So we should call Free at Buffalo Mountain Co-op and ask him if he's ready to receive some of this garlic.
Great.
Since 1999, Jeff and Melanie Carpenter have been growing herbs used to make botanic or herbal medicines and medicinal teas. Theirs is a marriage of farmers and herbalists.
My dad's side of the family were dairy farmers, and I sort of grew up, going to the farm and visiting the farm, and was always intrigued by that, and loved the tractor and the scenery and the whole thing. And for a while there, I sort of left the agricultural world, not ever thinking I'd return, but I knew it was always in my blood, and so I came back, and this is what I do, and this is what I love to do, and this is what I'll always do. As difficult as it is and as challenging as it is, this is what I do.
Well, I was really fortunate growing up. I was raised in a family that had rich traditions of herbalism. I was raised by my stepmother, Rosemary Gladstar, and she had been trained by her grandmother. So we passed that information on, grandmother to mother, mother to daughter, and it was really special. And so then as we were growing up, we just learned how to make teas, tinctures, salves, how to grow plants, how to identify herbs, and use them in our daily lives.
Zach Wood's Herb Farm is the largest farm of its kind, growing certified organic medicinal herbs in Vermont and the Northeast. Like any farm product, herbs are best when harvested at their peak of flavor and freshness, not to mention potency. After harvesting, the herbs are placed in a drying shed.
This is a type of basil called Tulsi. Some people call it sacred basil. This was brought in here fresh, and now it's dehydrated and ready to be processed for sale. It's about 105 degrees in here normally, so we can dehydrate herbs in as little as 24 hours in this facility.
Most of the crop is sold wholesale. The Carpenters make value-added tea blends themselves, which they sell through their website.
We're producing between 2,000 and 3,000 pounds dried material per year. But everything we dry starts out fresh, so it's generally between 75 and 95% moisture. So we're starting out by harvesting 10,000, 15,000 pounds of fresh material and turning it into 2,000 to 3,000 pounds of dried material. What we were taught as herbalists is the plants in their dried form should look, smell, taste, and feel as close as they did when they were growing in the field, and that's our goal, is to produce a dried, marketable material that has retained as much of the quality as possible. And we feel like we've met that goal.
The Carpenters stress quality control in their business. Much of the skepticism about herbal medicine stems from both fluctuations in the quality of the plant and a lack of consumer education.
Herbs are very popular, and it's a huge industry now, and there's a lot of money to be made in this herbal industry, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. I think in some ways, if it's done wisely, it supports a lot of wonderful growers and people that make products and people that are doing classes. So on this side, fabulous, and most importantly, it's getting people well and having them connect to nature. On the other side, there's a lot of things that are just being marketed that aren't really helpful and can sometimes be potentially harmful to people and just cost a lot of money. And so that's where I feel like people just need to be well educated. If you pull something just right off the grocery store shelf, it's like anything. Where was it grown? How was it harvested? How much echinacea is actually in there?
As an herbalist, Melanie is asked all the time what someone should take to prevent an illness or some discomfort. Her homespun wisdom is simple. Listen to your mother and your grandmother.
One of the things that people that grew up in the last generation, they used to be much more connected to the land, and so they knew to make spring tonics of dandelion leaf. They would harvest those and just eat them as their salad greens, and they also knew to pick elderberry or to make switchel, and different things that were just traditional ways of using plants and ways to eat your medicine. And they just did that, and so now it's really become with studies and classes and become very polished. But you go back to the old timers, and they know. Oh, I knew that. You should have asked me. You didn't need to take all those classes. You could have just come back here, honey. And so that's really fun to me.
Herbal medicine, or herbalism, predates human history. It's only within the last 200 years, due to advances in science, that modern medicine has become more removed from its herbal roots. Many pharmaceuticals physicians use today, like aspirin, quinine, and opium, have been used as herbal medicines for millennia. The World Health Organization estimates that 80% of some Asian and African countries use herbal medicine as some sort of their primary health care.
The Chinese symbol for the word crisis is two symbols, one that means danger and one that means opportunity.
Dr. Jennifer Eyre is an attending physician at Fletcher Allen Healthcare and an assistant professor at the University of Vermont College of Medicine. Through funding from Fletcher Allen, she is currently training at the University of Arizona's Center for Integrative Medicine. Founded by Dr. Andrew Weil in 1994, the center creates, educates, and supports the philosophy and practice of medicine that addresses the mind, body, and spirit.
It's really important that we have access to urgent care, acute care, trauma care, the gamut from broken legs to solid organ transplants. But that doesn't necessarily affect us on a day-to-day as far as how we take care of ourselves. And there's a longer tradition of things that we can call on that have a larger history that I think we need to pull back in and integrate back into our healthcare. I think that we really need to get creative about how we approach healing, about how we approach patient care, and we need to broaden our horizons a little bit more and look for things that are harmless, cost-effective, patient-centered. Our patients are asking these questions for a good reason.
Eyre believes Western medicine's tentative approach to herbal medicine is due to apprehension and a lack of understanding.
I think that there's often a deep breath or a fear response that may be the initial response of that's out of my league. I don't know anything about it. I didn't learn about it in medical school. So perhaps from a place that's not very well informed. I do think that once more traditional Western trained physicians understand that people are really looking to integrate their treatments. They're coming to the traditional doctor because they still value the science and tradition and history or even their own personal experience of what Western medicine can offer, but they're looking for more. And once people start to realize in medicine that people aren't trying to replace or discredit Western medicine, that we're truly looking to see what things can work in conjunction with Western medicine and what things have evidence, I think that the sigh of relief is palpable.
This is Calendula officinalis. This is a flower that's in the marigold family.
In terms of their own health care, Melanie and Jeff Carpenter take an all-inclusive approach to their health.
Modern technology has definitely changed the face of medicine, and there's more of a silver bullet approach. You know, if you get sick, you take a pill to either help you feel better or to mask the symptoms, whereas herbal medicine is more of a preventative approach. And we're trying to encourage people to dovetail the two worlds. In a real acute situation, we definitely recommend people going to see their physician, but for a more preventative, health-centered, nourishing the body approach, we encourage people to use herbal medicine.
We are at a great crossroads where there are so many options. We're really fortunate. We don't just have to use herbs or our home remedies, and we don't just have to use heroic, hospital medicine. We have all of these choices in between. So just like you don't use a screwdriver when you need a hammer, you pick the tool that is at the right tool for the job. So for building wellness, getting rid of stress, I use herbs for that all of the time, and including when I'm really sick. But if I get in a car accident and I break my leg, I'm headed to the doctor. And I think that that's where when we get into dichotomies, one or the other, we're at a real loss. I think it's much better to blend them and take what's best from all of it and utilize it well. I don't think you should choose one or the other. I think you should have it all. Yeah.
Back in the echinacea, the bees continue their work. They move from flower to flower, not favoring one over another. They take it all in. It's a holistic approach, and perhaps a lesson from the insect world that applies to the human world as well. In Hyde Park, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
For more information about the farm and its herbs, visit ZachWoodsHerb.com. That's ZachWoodsHerbs.com. You can learn about what's happening at the farm and in the herbal community. And that's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.